Welcome back to my channel, Hidden Points. Today, we're entering the intense inner world of the perfectionist, the person who appears so strong, disciplined, and capable on the outside, yet battles an endless storm of pressure and self-judgment on the inside. The first truth about perfectionists is that their obsession with flawless performance doesn't come from arrogance or confidence, but from fear. It's a fear that's ancient and deep, formed long before adulthood. It begins when a child learns that mistakes bring shame, disappointment, or cold silence. This child learns that love must be earned through achievement, behavior, and performance. So, they begin to watch themselves constantly, scanning for imperfections and monitoring every action, because they believe that even one failure might remove the affection and approval they crave. This mindset grows quietly inside them until it becomes a way of life. The perfectionist grows into an adult who doesn't feel permission to rest because rest feels like danger. Slowing down feels like failure. They push themselves harder every day because they've been conditioned to believe that they are only safe when they are achieving something. Perfectionists are known for high standards, yet what people don't understand is that these standards are often impossible, punishing, and unrealistic. The perfectionist believes that anything less than perfect is worthless. They can't enjoy their own accomplishments because the moment they finish something, their mind instantly jumps to details that could have been better, goals that must be reached next, and challenges they must conquer. Their brain never lets them stop. Even praise feels uncomfortable for the perfectionist. Praise makes them aware that the world is watching, and now they must live up to the image that others have of them. This creates more pressure, more fear, more stress, and more self-policing. Another psychological truth about perfectionists is that they often struggle with deep insecurity. They do untruly feel confident in their abilities because they fear that their skills are fragile and temporary, and if they ever relax, their whole life will collapse. So they cling to structure, rules, and routines to maintain a sense of control and predictability. They fear making the slightest error because their mind interprets errors not as normal human experiences, but as signs that they are failing as a person. Many perfectionists develop a habit of overthinking. They rehearse conversations, decisions, and tasks over and over again in their mind, trying to remove every possible mistake before it happens. This creates mental exhaustion and emotional fatigue because they are living in a constant state of vigilance and pressure. Perfectionists also struggle with procrastination because starting a task is terrifying when you believe it must be perfect. So they delay, avoid, and wait until the pressure becomes unbearable. Only then do they attack the task with intensity and self-punishment. Even when they succeed, they still feel guilty for not doing better. Another truth is that perfectionists often compare themselves to others endlessly. This comparison doesn't motivate them, but traps them in a cycle of feeling inferior, because they believe others are achieving more, doing better, or improving faster. This belief grows even when it's not true, because their mind focuses on flaws rather than strengths. Many perfectionists are secretly afraid of being average because average feels like being invisible and forgotten. They fear that if they are not exceptional, then they won't matter to anyone. This fear drives them to take on more work, more responsibility, and more challenges, even when they are exhausted, because they believe that constant accomplishment will keep them valuable in the eyes of others. Perfectionists struggle deeply with self-worth because their value is tied to performance, not identity. So, when they do well, they feel temporarily safe, but when they fail, slow down, or rest, they feel worthless. This creates an emotional roller coaster where their mood depends entirely on accomplishments, tasks, and external validation. Perfectionists rarely show vulnerability because vulnerability feels like a crack in their armor. They fear that if anyone sees their struggles, they will be judged, rejected, or seen as weak. So they hide their fear behind productivity, hide their exhaustion behind discipline, and hide their sadness behind achievements. No one realizes how tired they are because they have learned to smile while breaking inside. Perfectionists often take on responsibilities that are not theirs because they fear disappointing others. They believe that saying no will make people think they are unreliable, so they accept every task, every request, and every burden until they are overwhelmed, yet still pushing themselves to keep going because stopping feels like failure. Perfectionists are terrified of chaos because chaos is unpredictable, and they grew up needing control to feel safe. This need for control becomes a constant struggle in adulthood as they try to organize and structure every part of their life to reduce anxiety and avoid uncertainty. And yet, uncertainty is part of life, and the perfectionist cannot escape it, no matter how hard they try. This becomes one of their greatest internal battles. Another painful truth is that perfectionists often struggle in relationships. They hold themselves to extreme expectations and sometimes hold others to those expectations as well, not out of cruelty, but because they believe that high standards protect everyone from disappointment, mistakes, and conflict. They fear emotional meniscus because it's unpredictable, raw, and vulnerable. The perfectionist fears being seen in their rawest form because that version of them feels unworthy and unsafe. As perfectionists grow older, they begin to experience burnout because their body and mind can only sustain constant pressure for so long. Burnout arrives silently and slowly, and it steals their motivation, energy, and creativity. They don't understand why they feel so tired when they're still working so hard. What they don't realize is that their nervous system has been in survival mode for years, and survival mode is not meant to be permanent. Healing the perfectionist mindset begins with recognizing that worthiness is not something you earn. It is something you already have. The perfectionist must learn that mistakes do not ruin their identity, and resting does not mean failure. Being human does not make them weak. They must learn to separate self-worth from achievement, to set boundaries that protect their energy, and to allow themselves the freedom to be imperfect without punishing themselves. They must learn to breathe without fear, live without constant pressure, and trust themselves without needing proof. When the perfectionist begins to understand their own psychology, they slowly uncover a truth they have never known before: that they are enough, exactly as they are. They have always been enough. The world will not collapse when they stop pushing themselves beyond their limits. Their value does not disappear when they rest. They are worthy of kindness, compassion, and peace, and they can finally learn to choose themselves without guilt. When they reach this understanding, the chains of perfection loosen, and the perfectionist finally begins to live instead of perform. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, please share it, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights.